left.
What are your thoughts, Ross, on the alliance that's been talked about? No, not the one that's already died, that went away once the Big Ten poached the LA schools, but the new one with the Pac-12 and the ACC that's been debated about, I guess, over the last 24 hours in particular, whether that be scheduling or, whatever else has been thrown out there, like a championship game of some sort. How much smoke do you think there is to that, and how legitimate do you think that option is? What would it even mean in the long run?
Yeah, this is typical of this time. I call it the conference realignment silly season. It's kind of like coaching silly season. It's hard to believe a lot of what you read because things are so fluid and they change. And so much stuff is being talked about. And that's another thing, I do think that is real. I think there's something there. However, the reporting on it, which has been just by a couple of outlets, has been hardly no details. I mean, There's just been no specifics, no details. It's just like partnership with ACC and Pac-12 might include a few games played and might involve ESPN, and maybe there's some kind of game between their champions. Like, that's it. I mean, it's just literally like, a couple of stories were like 3 sentences of details on it. It just, there's not much there. So I'm curious, and I may or may not have been, exploring this myself the last couple of days, trying to get more details and specifics on this, because I do think it's real. I do think it involves ESPN heavy in the ACC network. But I don't know if it's a legitimate option, because there's so many out there. There's so much being discussed that, is this real? Number one. And number two, what are the details? And I'm hesitant myself to believe anything or report anything myself without more detail and exactly what this is, and is this a legitimate option? I know, it has been discussed, and I think it has been discussed by certain people in those leagues at length, but it does seem to be kind of in its infancy. And so, I don't, like I said, these days it's hard to parse through just, hey, is this being flung out there because it was mentioned on a call once, or is this being vetted? Is this a real thing? It's tough right now. And the same thing goes for the Big 12 teams being, Big 12 being aggressive with Pac-12. Well, I mean, there's a lot of reporting out there and from reputable people that the Big 12 is being aggressive and is in serious or deep talks. I'll be honest, I haven't heard that. And I think they're being aggressive. I do, or they want to be aggressive. But I think a lot of this is coming from one side. There's a lot of wishful thinking in the Big 12 that they can get some of these teams. And I'll be honest, Pac-12 sources, at least that I've spoken with, don't think that that's real. And I think a lot of them have balked at the deep or serious negotiations or talks. I don't know that that's really happening. I think the Big 12 wants to be aggressive, and it is being aggressive, but is it being reciprocated? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, you could want something or like to, date somebody, but that doesn't mean they want to do it the other way around either. You got to have a two-way street.
Well, and like you said, a lot of people could be being used, to put something out there that see what the reaction is, and all that. Yeah, you got to. There's an agenda potentially with everything that's out there. Yeah,
every time